So I'm Andy Barrow, I'm the Chief Technology Officer for ANS. ANS is an award-winning cloud and managed service IT provider. It separates us from the competition. It's a great question because there's lots of, I would say, small things that we do that add up to a fantastic service to the customer. I think if one thing an organisation can get right is the culture. And I think if your culture is right within your organisation, that will differentiate you enough because you will create innovation, you will create a culture of hard work, and the customer will see that and see you as a differentiator of service. Yeah, there's a load of buzzwords. I think the interesting thing really with what differentiates you is it comes from a culture then that I think spawns innovation, and by spawning innovation, if you create the right need in your staff will constantly come in with new ideas and ways to differentiate, and I think that that's probably the right way. If you don't have that culture, you'll never move, you'll just be doing BAU all the time and the customer never really sees anything. Oh, highlights of working with ANS. So I've been there nearly 10 years now, and there's been many. I think one of the main ones was 2 or 3 years ago where we got Sunday Times number 9 to work for. So we're really proud of that actually. That was something that's an award from the staff. So, it's not something that's been given to us for something else that we've achieved from a manufacturer or a vendor or anything. That's something that the staff have actually voted us for. We've just won one of the largest projects that we've ever won in terms of value and in terms of how transformative it's going to be to that organisation. So that was a fantastic win for us that was in the NHS. So something that we're really proud of. And a lot of the awards that we've won from our vendors and people that we work with who have recognised us as being best in class for what we do in IT, cloud and managed services. Why would a new business choose Manchester of all the cities? So I think it's quite obvious now in the last sort of 10 years, what you're starting to notice in and around Manchester is there's a lot of entrepreneurial spirit going on around the city now. So there's a lot of places where you can network, there's a lot of people that you can get to know quite easy, there's a lot of local investment, there's great accommodation. You can see the skyline of Manchester's changed over the last decade. Great places to set up, people like the Sharp Project and some of the other kind of small sort of incubator areas that you can really get a small business off the ground quite easy and have access to good investment from people who've been there and done it. So to kind of sum that up really, I'd just say I would say entrepreneurial spirit is probably one of the main sort of terms I'd use for Manchester at the minute. The easiest way to recommend is who do ANS help us, along the way. So the guys at Cube are great. So you're talking Paul Irwin there and Phil and Carl. They're a really great business to work with. They understand what we're trying to achieve and they add a lot of value to ANS. They're probably the main ones that we work with on a day-to-day basis. Galibia PR are somebody else that helps us as well. And they've done a lot of work with us to make sure that our customers can tell the world about what we've done and what they've done and how transformative they're being. So those are kind of two I'd recommend to anyone. Over and above on top of ANS, of course. The most influential people in the local business scene. There are so many over the last decade that you can name. I think, one of the first people I'd start with, I think, is probably Scott, our chairman. I know it's a bit of a cliche to use someone in the same business that you work with, but not so much for what Scott does within ANS, which is great. It's a lot of what he's done out of ANS in terms of the Apprentice Academy, getting young people into work, getting people into IT, getting them inspired by digital and next generation IT. So there's a lot of work that Scott's done to make sure that local investment is there in the right areas for technology and becoming digital Manchester. There's plenty of others as well. Tim Bacon, really well. Tom Bloxham, with Urban Splash. You're talking Sir Richard Lees and Sir Howard and Ian Kennedy at Cisco is a great guy. He's based out of Didsbury. He's always interested in getting into the small and local technology business scene. Sue Woodward's done great things over the past decade. So there's just so many. Don't have to look far for inspiration. So people like to kind of say Spinningfields or the Northern Quarter, depending on what you're at. I'm a bit more Spinningfields. I kind of like the atmosphere around there now. I like what's going on with Neighbourhood and The Alchemist and some of those. And the way that that's come on in the last 3 or 4 years is Manchester's sort of restaurant and bar scene now is first class, and certainly Spinningfields I think is a great example of that. Oh, great question. So the benefit of being in this city, we've got great transport links, we've got great local businesses that we can work with, there's a lot of innovation going on in Manchester. You don't have to look too far to find a really inspirational growing business that's actually doing something really interesting. I think now Manchester is such the hub of digital business and sort of next generation businesses, the people who are going to dominate the next 10, 20 years. It's a great place for us to be on the Science Park. The first thing is, you need to understand that focus is primary to absolutely everything, and I think that you can get lost a little bit in delusional optimism where you don't listen to what people are telling you. You only need to look on Dragon's Den where people have solved a problem that didn't exist, right? So we need to understand first of all and take some good advice. You know, you've got 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. So make sure you listen to local investors, listen to what they feel the next 10 years is all about, whether your product or service is actually something that you can make a viable business from. So certainly when you're starting out, you know, don't get caught in delusional optimism. Make sure you're highly focused, make sure you understand what your value proposition is, make sure that your staff are bought into the value proposition and then can execute the culture that you need to make it successful. But you know, in main things, you've got to listen to other people who've been there and done it, because that will cut out 3 or 4 years quite easily by just taking on board the advice. 2 ears, 1 mouth. Thanks for watching. I'm Andy Barrow from ANS. This was Huddled.